last day for the Saints here at the Greenbrier. Tom Brady now, we don't know what's going to happen with him in the NFL, but he's warming up like he's in the bullpen. Maybe if he's not eligible to play, the Red Sox could possibly use him. Stay tuned on that. Don't hold your breath, though. I'm Mike Neighbors here at the Greenbrier, continuing CST's coverage of Saints Training Camp 2015. It was Saints-Patriots, the sequel. Another business-like practice between the two teams. No fighting once again, but we do have an injury update. Now, Keenan Lewis and Kenny Vaccaro, Akeem Hicks did not practice today, but we did have, how about this, a Brandon Browner sighting. He was walking around before practice, actually got on the bikes. They were playing music. He was dancing a little bit. No word on his status, but it's good to see him out here again. Speaking of the cornerbacks, Delvin Breaux was participating in individual drills, did not participate in team drills. Overall, though, day two, these two teams very happy with the work, especially the head coaches.
I thought the tempo was good. It was kind of like we had discussed prior to watching the tape. There are a handful of things that, there are a lot of things, obviously, that we as a team got to be better at, and some of the things that we're looking to improve on, I think needs to get better. But I thought it was organized. I thought we got around well. Both teams were on the same page, and I thought we got a lot done.
We learned a lot. It's great work against the Saints. Again, Sean and his staff have really accommodated us in terms of on the field, the football part of it. Got a lot of good work in, a lot of good teaching.
So we'll stay tuned on the status of Brandon Browner. Obviously, that's big news here at Saints headquarters. He's one of the few guys who has played for both the Patriots and the New Orleans Saints. Another one of those guys, how about tight end Ben Watson, drafted by the New England Patriots 12 years ago, and of course now in New Orleans. Now, Ben Watson, you could say, arguably the busiest Saint this training camp. I haven't seen him drop a football. Has had a great camp, making the most of all the reps with Jimmy Graham being in Seattle. He also had to fly home and see the birth of his fifth child. So he's been back and forth from the Greenbrier to New Orleans. It said this week was pretty special, playing for the Saints and playing against his former mates.
It's amazing. Most of the guys are gone that I played with. I mean, I'm looking around and, it just goes to show the turnover in the NFL. Obviously, Tom's still there, and Niskowski, a couple other guys, but I think I probably know more coaches than actual players. The Patriots are obviously a team an organization that everybody in the league respects, and they're a team that, if you want to be good, play good football, you emulate in some ways. And so a lot of what we do organizationally has been built off, seeing the success that they've had, obviously putting our own little wrinkle on it.
Great camp for Ben Watson so far, who says he's been privileged in his career to play for both Drew Brees and Tom Brady. Speaking of quarterbacks, an interesting quarterback duo in this Saints-Patriots scrimmage. You have Sean Payton and Jimmy Garoppolo. What do they have in common? Well, how about the same alma mater, Eastern Illinois? Payton was a record-setting quarterback back in the 80s. Garoppolo now, in his second year in the NFL, broke a lot of Payton's records. Now, they have fun going back and forth, especially during the draft process a year ago, where Garoppolo says Sean Payton actually picked his brain in a funny way during the combine. He's a competitive guy. I know Romo is. Do you guys ever talk about who the best quarterback is? You have fun with that at all?
He asked me that in the combine process, I remember, but, keep the answer private for now.
You won't tell me, huh?
I can't. You have to ask him.
Yeah, he'll never tell, but when it comes to Patriots quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, he will in some ways forever be linked to Sean Payton, at least in Eastern Illinois circles. Panther pride abounds for two former quarterbacks who love their alma mater. For Payton, it seems whenever he's in the old neighborhood, he gets a glimpse of Garoppolo.
Clearly, as an alum, every once in a while you pay attention to how the school's doing. I had a chance to meet his dad briefly when we were up in Chicago playing the Bears. I think he worked at the hotel our team was staying at. Excited, obviously, to see a good player come out of that school, hopefully doing well.
The young quarterback is doing well, where if Tom Brady has to sit out the first 4 games of the season, it will be the man who broke most of Sean Payton's career records in college, taking over the offense of the defending Super Bowl champs. Main thing you've taken from Tom Brady in your time with him here so far?
His preparation. He's unbelievable at preparing week in, week out, and just being a young guy, you look at that and, it's a long season. You try to take a little bit of that and put it towards your game.
While Garoppolo may take over for Brady, he surely took over for Payton in the Eastern Illinois record books in terms of single-season passing yards, career passing yards, and career completions. Payton, though, still holds the record for the most passing yards in a game, a legacy not lost on the kid. How do your games match up looking back, you and Sean Payton at the college level?
Oh, man, I've never really seen his game film, but apparently, he was a stud back then. Apparently, he was setting all the records and all that stuff. So, he must have been pretty good.
Yeah, Peyton was a good college player, but wasn't drafted. Garoppolo was a second-rounder. So does the coach ever break down the game film to see who the better Eastern Illinois quarterback was?
Break down the comparison? Yeah. There's too many other breakdowns going on.
Good stuff from Peyton and Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll stay tuned on who the best quarterback is in Eastern Illinois history. Remember, Tony Romo played there as well. Well, coming up next, our CST camp counselor. Yesterday, we had a guy who covered the Patriots and now covers the Saints. Today, we talked to Brian Salmon, who used to work in New Orleans and now works in Boston. He has an interesting take on both teams. Our camp counselor coming up next in our coverage from the Greenbrier.
Saints Training Camp is brought to you by Take 5 Oil Change, the fastest oil change on the planet, and by Louisiana Cat, your statewide dealer for Caterpillar equipment in Louisiana.
Welcome back to the Greenbrier. CST's coverage of Saints Training Camp 2015 continues. Our daily camp counselor, we have a role reversal. Yesterday we had Nick Underhill of the New Orleans Advocate. He covered the Patriots, and now he's covering the Saints. I bring in my old friend from WWL, now at Fox 25 in Boston, Brian Salmon, who used to work in New Orleans, and now you work in Boston. You're going to give us some nice perspective today, right?
Of course. I miss Nola. I have to say that right off the top. I miss being in New Orleans big time. Boston, I went up there. There's a lot of snow when I first got up there. But practices, the coaching staff, everything's a lot different. But one thing I've done, I went from one Hall of Fame quarterback to another Hall of Fame quarterback. The quarterback play that I get a chance to see is pretty spectacular for sure.
I found it funny. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. Tom Brady hasn't spoken to the media since he won a trophy, being Super Bowl MVP. Just talk about, talking to him, having access to him compared to a Drew Brees.
How about this? The fact that my first assignment in Boston was going to the Super Bowl, right? So I have never actually done an interview with Tom Brady because he spoke at the Super Bowl, but, it's up on the podium and whatnot. He didn't talk during OTAs. He didn't talk during minicamp. He hasn't talked during training camp. Something I tell a lot of the people back there is that it's completely different dealing with Tom Brady as opposed to Drew Brees, because Brees talked every week. During Bounty Gate, when I covered that, he would always come up every week and say what he had to say regarding Roger Goodell, the NFL, whatever. Brady, not so much.
Talk about Peyton and Belichick. To me, Peyton will give you perspective on things when you talk about, comparing players or talking about his guys. Belichick, I've been with him a couple days out here. Yeah. He doesn't give you a whole lot, does he?
You know what? He does not give you a whole lot. One thing I have to say, before I went up there, I had an idea what Bill Belichick is like. Obviously, you watch SportsCenter, you watch any channel, and you hear him interview, and he's not answering questions. I thought he was going to be terrible. However, he's grown on me a little bit. I have to say, he's grown on me a little bit. He doesn't like to mention players specifically by name. He won't talk about any scandals that are going on. He'll blow you off. But if you ask him football-related questions, guys' technique or stuff like that, he'll get into it. He loves to talk about that kind of stuff, but he won't give you any kind of scheme, and he definitely does not single guys out to praise them.
Let's talk about this Saints team. Obviously everybody in New Orleans has great respect for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Leading up to this week, what do you think the perception is now that you've been away from New Orleans for a little while? I mean, they trade Jimmy Graham. There's some changes on defense. They flip-flop the roster in a lot of ways.
Oh, wow. After I left New Orleans, I'm like, what the heck are they doing? I mean, they must have been sad that I left town.
Sure.
Obviously, Jimmy Graham's out of there, Kenny Stills out of there, Junior Gillette out of there, Curtis Lofton. I'm like, all these players, and they're not scrubs that they're getting rid of. I mean, they got rid of a lot of good players. I don't know how you replace that kind of talent, especially when you're replacing with guys that aren't big names. I mean, guys are going to have to step up and really make a name for themselves. Brandon Cooks, I can't wait to watch him play this year. I'm hoping he has a magnificent year. I covered him in college. So, I mean, he's a great kid, great talent. It's set up for him. But Ben Watson, another great guy, he went from New England to Cleveland to New Orleans. He's got great perspective, but he's been looking great in camp. Yesterday he was fabulous. Fountain of youth, I guess he's found. The Saints made some pretty questionable moves that a lot of people are going to have questions about if they have a terrible season. And if you look at practice today, it's not like Brees had a great practice or the offense had a great practice, and they're getting shredded on defense. So,
I appreciate it, my friend. I think we'll both agree, though. It's a pleasure watching Brees and Brady perform the 2-minute drill. That was good stuff, wasn't it?
Yes, we are fortunate, huh? This was work?
Oh, I know. It's unbelievable. Well, listen, quality camp counseling. This guy's like the golden ticket, you know? He goes to New England, they win. New Orleans, they won. If you go to Jacksonville, they may win a Super Bowl if you keep going. Yeah. Listen, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Coming up next in our coverage here of Saints Training Camp, we'll have your quote of the day. Don't miss that. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our final segment, CST's coverage of Saints Training Camp 2015. It's our quote of the day. Now, Sean Payton on fire this week. Yesterday, he had the quote of the day. Today, back-to-back quotes. An interesting dynamic here during the press conferences we have after practice. Every now and then, we have a train ride through the mountains, and it kind of disrupts the press conference. Well, Payton took full advantage, offering up a quality movie reference.
The setup for us facility-wise, it works. Wait a second. It's kind of like the scene on My Cousin Vinny.
Good stuff, Coach. He left out the Utes, though. You always think of Utes and My Cousin Vinny. Anyway, that wraps up another show. We'd like to thank our CST camp counselor. Used to be in New Orleans. Now he's Boston's Brian Salmon. I'm Mike Neighbors. We'll see you again Friday night.